When buying a piece of jewelry for his wife, the millionaire was paralyzed when he saw the seller's wedding ring. The same one he gave to his mother before she died 10 years ago. Ethan Malone had always lived life on his own terms. A millionaire in his early 40s, he was known for his sharp business acumen and relentless drive. Yet, beneath the veneer of success lay a heart marked by profound grief. It had been a decade since his mother, Margaret, had passed away, leaving an irreplaceable void in his life. He often found himself wandering through memories, where laughter and warmth were entwined with the ache of her absence. Ethan remembered the day he had given her the ring, a delicate piece adorned with a single diamond set in intricate gold filigree. It was a symbol of his love and gratitude, a token he hoped would bring her joy. As he placed the ring on her finger, her eyes had sparkled with tears, reflecting a love that transcended the material. The ring represented more than just a piece of jewelry. It was a connection to her spirit, a testament to the bond they shared. Following her death, Ethan channeled his grief into his work, burying himself in projects that yielded financial success but left him emotionally barren. His marriage to Vanessa had become a reflection of this disconnect. Though he had initially been drawn to her vivacious spirit, their relationship gradually dulled, overshadowed by the ghosts of his past. Ethan felt like a distant star in his own life, present yet unreachable. Vanessa, aware of his emotional withdrawal, tried to bridge the gap, but every attempt seemed to fall flat against the wall of his sorrow. His days were a blur of meetings and business deals, leaving little room for personal connections. The luxurious lifestyle he had built felt hollow, echoing the sentiments of his unaddressed grief. Ethan often questioned if he could ever truly be happy again, pondering whether the weight of his past would forever anchor him in despair. It was in the quiet moments, usually before sleep, that the realization would wash over him. He was alive, yet he felt as if a part of him had died along with his mother. Ethan's heart, once filled with love, was now plagued by an emptiness that no amount of wealth could fill. He longed for reconnection, not just with his mother's memory but with the present and with Vanessa, who had become a stranger to him over time. As he stood in front of the mirror each morning, he saw not just a man but a fragmented soul searching for solace. Ethan sat in his luxurious office, the skyline of the city sprawling before him, yet he felt utterly disconnected from the vibrant life outside. The glass walls that offered a view of success seemed to trap him within his own sorrow. As he gazed out, memories of his mother flooded back. Her laughter, the warmth of her hugs, the soft caress of her voice as she would remind him to cherish the little things. It was these fragments of the past that haunted him, each memory a reminder of what he had lost. Grief had become an unwelcome companion, one that whispered regrets and what-ifs into his ear during the quiet hours of the night. Ethan often found himself retracing the moments leading up to his mother's passing. He recalled the last time he had visited her in the hospital, how he had promised to take her to her favorite restaurant, how she had smiled weakly yet reassuringly as he held her hand. That promise remained unfulfilled, and with it, a heavy sense of remorse enveloped him. Despite Vanessa's efforts to reach out, he felt a barrier he couldn't break through. She had tried to be his rock, offering words of comfort and support, but to Ethan they often sounded hollow. There were times when she would embrace him, and he would feel a flicker of warmth, but just as quickly, that warmth would dissipate, leaving behind the chill of his unresolved emotions. He couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't fully understand the depths of his grief, nor did she grasp the weight of the memories that haunted him. Ethan's heart twisted with a blend of sorrow and frustration. He had grown distant, not just from Vanessa but from himself. The more he attempted to bury his pain under layers of wealth and success, the deeper the chasm grew. He longed for the connection he once shared with his mother and wished he could express that longing to Vanessa. Yet, he feared opening up. He worried that revealing his vulnerabilities would drive her further away or, worse, reveal the cracks in their already fragile marriage. In moments of solitude, he contemplated the possibility of seeking help, but the thought of exposing his emotional scars to a stranger felt daunting. He worried that sharing his burden would only amplify it, making him feel more exposed and vulnerable. Ethan often found himself standing at the edge of an emotional precipice, teetering between the desire to heal and the instinct to protect himself from further pain. As he sat alone in his office, the memories of his mother reminded him of the love he had lost and the life he could have led, a life filled with joy, laughter, and authentic connections. He closed his eyes, wishing for just a moment to feel her presence again, to hear her voice guiding him back to a path of emotional freedom. It was a longing so deep that it nearly choked him, leaving him gasping for a breath of hope amid the suffocating weight of his grief. With the weight of grief pressing heavily on his chest, Ethan made a decision that he hoped would breathe some life back into his stagnant marriage. He resolved to buy Vanessa a piece of jewelry, something special to express his appreciation for her unwavering support. Perhaps this gesture would serve as a bridge, reconnecting them in ways he had long neglected. The idea of a beautiful ring danced in his mind, one that could reflect the love and gratitude he felt yet struggled to articulate. Ethan scheduled a day to visit a high-end jewelry store downtown, a place known for its exquisite selection. The thought of shopping for Vanessa sparked a flicker of excitement, a welcome distraction from the suffocating shadows of his past. As he prepared for the outing, he dressed carefully, choosing a crisp suit that exuded confidence. He hoped the visit would remind him of the man he used to be, the man who cherished and celebrated those he loved. Upon arriving at the store, Ethan was greeted by the soft chime of a bell as he stepped inside, the ambience infused with luxury and elegance. The air was thick with a scent of polished wood and velvet, and he felt a momentary thrill at the sight of glittering displays that promised beauty and significance. But as he navigated through the sparkling gems, the walls seemed to close in, and the memories of his mother crept back in, casting a shadow over his resolve. He wandered from display to display, his heart pounding as he picked up various pieces, trying to imagine Vanessa's reaction to each one. But a nagging sense of unease lingered, a subtle reminder of the emotional chasm that had formed between them. Each ring he examined felt inadequate, as if no piece of jewelry could truly encapsulate the complex emotions swirling within him. He was searching not just for a gift but for a way to bridge the distance that had grown between them. As he stood contemplating a delicate bracelet, the shop's bell chimed again, announcing the arrival of another customer. Ethan turned, his eyes drawn to the saleswoman who stepped into the store, a young woman named Laura, whose radiant smile and genuine demeanor instantly captivated him. Her enthusiasm as she welcomed him felt refreshing, breaking through the fog of his introspection. "Can I help you find something special today?" she asked, her voice warm and inviting. Ethan hesitated but then nodded, explaining his intention to purchase something meaningful for his wife. Laura's understanding and engagement made him feel momentarily alive, as if he could trust her to help him navigate this emotional labyrinth. They began discussing different pieces, and Ethan found himself opening up about his feelings, how he wanted this gift to signify a new beginning for their marriage. Little did he know, this simple trip to find a piece of jewelry would lead him down an unexpected path, one that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, loss, and the ties that bind families together. As Ethan continued to discuss his intentions with Laura, a spark of hope ignited within him, making him momentarily forget the weight of his grief. She guided him through various options, presenting exquisite pieces that gleamed under the soft lighting. He was impressed by her knowledge and genuine passion for the jewelry, and for the first time in months, he felt a flicker of excitement about the future. Just as they approached a display showcasing stunning rings, something caught Ethan's eye, a familiar glimmer in the corner of the case. His heart skipped a beat as he focused on a particular ring, almost instinctively stepping closer. The moment he laid eyes on it, time seemed to freeze. There it was, the ring. It was unmistakably identical to the one he had given his mother a decade ago. The delicate band with its intricate design and the single diamond glistened like a beacon, pulling him into a maelstrom of memories. Suddenly, he was no longer in the jewelry store. He was transported back to that day, standing in front of his mother as he placed the ring on her finger. Ethan felt the air leave his lungs as an overwhelming wave of emotion washed over him. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. Shock coursed through his veins. The room blurred, and all he could hear was the faint echo of his mother's laughter, her words of gratitude resonating in his mind. This ring had meant everything to her, a symbol of their bond, a reminder of the love they had shared. The nostalgia became a heavy blanket, suffocating yet comforting, filled with both love and loss. Laura noticed his stillness and approached cautiously, her brow furrowed in concern. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded, though he felt anything but. "This ring. It's identical to one I gave my mother before she passed away," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. He reached out to touch the glass display, as if hoping that contact would bridge the gap between his past and present. "Really?" Laura replied, intrigued. "It's a beautiful piece. It must have held a lot of meaning for you." Ethan swallowed hard, fighting to maintain his composure. "Did. It still does," he managed, his heart racing. Memories flooded his mind, juxtaposing the joy of that moment with the agony of his mother's loss. The ring was not just an ornament, it was a vessel of memories, a tangible connection to a love that had shaped him. "What's your name?" Ethan asked, his voice steadying as he glanced at Laura, a sudden need to know more about her filling him. "Laura," she replied with a kind smile. "I'm glad you found something that resonates so deeply with you." But Ethan's mind was elsewhere, swirling with questions. How had this ring resurfaced? Where had it come from? The emotional turmoil churned within him, but beneath it lay an insatiable curiosity that demanded answers. Ethan's heart raced as he studied the ring more closely, each intricate detail amplifying the haunting familiarity that gripped him. He felt a mix of disbelief and confusion, desperately trying to rationalize this surreal encounter. How could a piece so deeply intertwined with his past appear here, in a jewelry store he had never visited before? "Laura," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "do you know where this ring came from? Was it brought in recently?" Laura tilted her head, pondering his question. "I believe it came from a recent estate sale. It was part of a collection belonging to a family in the area. They decided to sell some heirlooms," she explained, her eyes sparkling with a hint of curiosity about Ethan's emotional response. An unsettling sensation twisted in Ethan's gut. His mother's ring had been custom-made. There were no duplicates. The more he thought about it, the more a dark cloud of suspicion gathered. What if this was not a mere coincidence? He swallowed hard, pushing back the swell of panic. "Do you know the name of the family that owned it?" he pressed, urgency creeping into his voice. Laura shook her head. "I'm not sure. I can check with my manager if you'd like." Ethan nodded, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. He wasn't sure if he wanted to know more. What if this ring had passed through a lineage tainted with secrets? What if it held a history he wasn't prepared to uncover? Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to understand its journey back to him. As Laura walked away to speak with her manager, Ethan stepped back, allowing the chaos of thoughts to swirl in his mind. The store was filled with people, each engaged in their own moments of joy and excitement, but Ethan felt utterly detached. The vibrant colors of the jewelry, the laughter of customers, all faded into a dull hum, overshadowed by the memory of his mother and the implications of this ring's presence. He paced slowly, running his fingers through his hair, his mind racing with possibilities. Had the ring truly come from an estate sale, or had someone orchestrated its reappearance to draw him back into a narrative he thought was long finished? He glanced at Laura, who was now engaged in a conversation with an older woman, her face bright with enthusiasm. There was no indication of deception in her demeanor, yet Ethan couldn't help but question everything. When Laura returned, she carried a piece of paper, her brow slightly furrowed. "I spoke with my manager. They didn't have many details, but the ring did belong to a woman named Margaret," she said, a hint of uncertainty in her tone. His breath caught in his throat. "Margaret," he echoed, a mix of hope and dread coursing through him. Is it possible she could have been connected to my mother? I can find out more, but the name rang a bell." "Let me check our records," Laura replied, her voice sympathetic yet uncertain. Ethan nodded, his heart thudding in his chest as he waited for the information that could unravel everything he thought he understood. Ethan felt a surge of determination coursing through him as he contemplated the implications of Laura's words. The connection, however tenuous, had ignited a flicker of hope that he desperately needed. What if this ring was a bridge to the past, a means to uncover truths that had been buried with his mother? He realized he could not let this opportunity slip away. He had to dig deeper. After leaving the jewelry store, Ethan sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The engine hummed softly beneath him, but his mind was racing with possibilities. He knew he had to find answers, and it wouldn't come from casual inquiries. He decided then and there that he needed professional help, a private investigator who could delve into the history of the ring and its connection to his mother. With newfound resolve, he reached for his phone and searched for local private investigation services. After a few minutes of scrolling, he found a reputable agency and dialed the number. The phone rang and a calm, professional voice answered. Ethan quickly introduced himself and explained his unusual request. "I need to find out the origins of a piece of jewelry," he said, keeping his voice steady despite the anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. "It was my mother's ring, and I believe it has resurfaced in a jewelry store here. I want to know how it got there." The investigator, a man named Marcus, listened intently before agreeing to take on the case. "I'll need as much information as you can provide," Marcus said, his tone reassuring. "It might take some time, but I'll get to the bottom of it for you." Ethan felt a mix of relief and urgency wash over him. He provided Marcus with every detail he could remember about the ring and his mother's life, hoping that even the smallest piece of information might lead to a breakthrough. Once the call ended, Ethan leaned back in his seat, feeling a slight sense of control returning to his life, a contrast to the emotional turmoil that had consumed him since he had seen that ring. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself consumed by anticipation. Each day was filled with mundane tasks, but his mind was always drifting back to Laura and the ring. He couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter had opened a door to a path he was meant to explore. As the investigation unfolded, he waited anxiously for updates from Marcus. He imagined himself standing in front of his mother, showing her the ring, and sharing the story of how he found it again. He yearned for closure, for a way to honor her memory without the heavy shroud of unresolved grief that had clung to him for so long. When the call from Marcus finally came, Ethan's heart raced. He answered, ready to hear the results of the investigation that could change everything. "Ethan, I have some information for you," Marcus began, his voice measured but with an undercurrent of urgency. "It appears that the ring you're looking for has a more complex history than we initially thought." Ethan's breath hitched in his throat, his mind racing with questions. "What do you mean?" "It's not just a ring," Marcus continued. "It has ties to a family that you may know of. I think you'll want to hear the details." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He braced himself for the revelations that were about to unfold, knowing they could shatter the fragile peace he had been building. Ethan's heart raced as he listened intently to Marcus's voice on the other end of the line. "The ring you're interested in belonged to a woman named Margaret Thompson," Marcus explained, his tone steady but laced with an undeniable gravity. "She passed away about 10 years ago, around the same time as your mother." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The uncanny coincidence sent shivers down his spine. "What more do you know about her?" he asked, urgency propelling his words. "Margaret Thompson was well liked in her community," Marcus continued, gathering the information he had uncovered. "She had 2 children, a son and a daughter. After her passing, the family went through some financial troubles. They liquidated some of their possessions, including the ring, which eventually found its way to the estate sale." Ethan felt the ground beneath him shift. This was no mere coincidence. This was a connection, a thread tying him back to the memories he thought he had lost forever. "And Laura? What's her relation to Margaret?" he pressed, a newfound curiosity about the saleswoman washing over him. "Laura is Margaret's granddaughter," Marcus revealed, the words hanging heavily in the air. She grew up believing the ring was a family heirloom passed down through generations. However, it appears that the true history of the ring might be more complicated than that. Ethan felt a mix of shock and intrigue as he processed this revelation. Laura, the young woman who had so skillfully navigated his emotional turmoil, was a direct descendant of the very woman whose ring had held such significance in his life. The realization sent his thoughts spiraling, weaving a tapestry of connections between their families. "Have you spoken with her about this?" Marcus asked, drawing Ethan out of his reverie. "No, I haven't had the chance," Ethan replied, his mind racing. "I need to see her again. I need to understand how this ring came to her family and what it meant to them." "Just be careful," Marcus warned. "The emotional weight of these connections can be heavy. You may want to approach this delicately." As Ethan hung up the phone, he felt an overwhelming urge to visit Laura again, to share the discovery and see how she would react to the news of their intertwined histories. He knew that confronting this revelation could open old wounds, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were both entangled in a story that demanded to be told. That evening, Ethan decided to return to the jewelry store. The thought of seeing Laura again filled him with anticipation and anxiety. He rehearsed what he would say in his mind, eager to share the revelation about the ring's origins and to learn more about her family. When he entered the store, the familiar chime of the bell greeted him, and he was enveloped once more in the luxurious ambience. The sparkling displays seemed to shimmer with secrets, and Ethan's heart raced as he scanned the room for Laura. She appeared from the back, her smile brightening the space. "Ethan, you're back," she exclaimed, genuine warmth radiating from her. "Laura, I have something important to discuss," he said, his voice steadying as he approached her. "It's about the ring." Her expression shifted, curiosity evident in her eyes. "What about it?" Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "It seems that the ring you're wearing belonged to my mother, Margaret Malone. I just found out that you're related to her." As Laura processed his words, Ethan saw a mixture of shock and intrigue dance across her features. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan continued, sharing the details of Marcus's investigation, each word laced with the urgency of the connection they now shared. He watched as realization dawned on her, the implications of their entwined past beginning to unfold between them. Laura's expression shifted from surprise to a contemplative gaze as she absorbed Ethan's words. "Your mother. She was my grandmother's best friend," she said slowly, her voice filled with disbelief. "I've heard stories about her but never made the connection. This is incredible." Ethan could see the wheels turning in her mind, and he felt a surge of hope. Maybe this revelation could be the catalyst for healing, a way to forge a bond that transcended loss. Yet, as the excitement coursed through him, another shadow loomed at the edges of his mind. Vanessa. The very thought of her sent a chill through him. The ring's history wasn't just a relic of his mother's past. It was intertwined with the very foundation of his life, and now it seemed to point toward a secret he hadn't anticipated. Ethan's heart sank as he recalled Vanessa's manipulative tendencies, her penchant for bending the truth to serve her own ends. "Laura," he began, cautiously gauging her reaction. "I need to ask you something. How did you come to have the ring? Did it just show up in the estate sale? Or was there a family connection that might explain its journey?" Laura's brow furrowed as she thought. "I'm not entirely sure. My family went through some tough times after my grandmother passed away. I think they sold a few items to make ends meet. The ring was one of them. But I never questioned how they got it. It felt like part of our heritage." Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "What if I told you that I suspect Vanessa might have had a hand in this? She was very close to my family, and she's not always honest." Laura looked taken aback. "You think she knew about the ring?" "I'm not sure," Ethan admitted, the weight of suspicion settling heavily on him. "But I wouldn't put it past her to manipulate circumstances to her advantage. We've been drifting apart, and I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something from me." Laura's expression softened, her eyes filled with empathy. "That sounds really tough, Ethan. It's painful to feel that someone you love might not be who you thought they were. Ethan nodded, grateful for her understanding. I need to dig deeper. If this ring holds the history I think it does, then it might be a key to unlocking more than just my mother's past. It could expose truths about my marriage and Vanessa. As the gravity of his words sank in, Ethan felt a determination rise within him. He couldn't let fear dictate his next steps. The past had haunted him long enough. It was time to confront it head-on. Would you be willing to help me? He asked Laura, a sense of urgency threading through his request. I'd like to learn more about your family's connection to the ring and if there's anything else we can uncover. Laura nodded, her resolve mirroring his. Course. I want to know the truth too. My family has held on to that ring, believing it was something precious. If it's connected to your mother, then it deserves to be honored. Together, they began formulating a plan to investigate further, a shared mission that sparked a new energy between them. They would dig into family histories, interview relatives, and explore every avenue that might reveal the full story behind the ring. As Ethan left the store that day, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He was on the brink of a discovery that could change everything, not just for himself but for Laura and the legacy of their mothers. Yet, the specter of Vanessa lingered in the back of his mind, a reminder that secrets could lead to devastating revelations. Ethan arrived home that evening, the tension simmering beneath his skin like a pot on the verge of boiling over. The excitement of the day's revelations with Laura was overshadowed by the impending confrontation with Vanessa. The house, once a sanctuary, felt more like a prison, a lavishly decorated reminder of the life he had built, yet one that had become fraught with discontent. As he entered, the scent of her cooking wafted through the air, a familiar yet distant aroma that stirred memories of simpler times. He found Vanessa in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred a pot on the stove. Her presence was warm, inviting even, but Ethan felt the chill of uncertainty creeping in. Hey, you're home early, she said, glancing up with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. How was your day? Ethan paused, the question hanging in the air. He could either play along, maintaining the status quo, or he could plunge into the heart of the matter. He chose the latter, steeling himself for what he knew would be a difficult conversation. We need to talk, he said, his voice steady but firm. Vanessa's smile faltered, her expression shifting to concern. What's wrong? You seem serious. It's about the ring, he replied, his heart racing. He had rehearsed what he wanted to say, but the words felt heavier now that the moment had arrived. The one I saw at the jewelry store. It belonged to my mother, and it's connected to a woman named Laura, who is her granddaughter. Vanessa's eyes widened, and Ethan caught a flicker of something. Fear, perhaps? That's interesting, she stammered, her voice laced with uncertainty. I've been doing some digging, he pressed on, unable to contain the frustration that bubbled beneath the surface. And I've uncovered some things about the ring and its journey. But there's more to it than that. I suspect that you might have manipulated events surrounding it, events that involved my mother's legacy. Vanessa's face paled, and Ethan could see the wheels turning in her mind, calculating her response. Ethan, I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? He interrupted, the hurt and anger rising like a tide. Didn't mean to lie to me. Did you think I wouldn't find out that you auctioned off my mother's ring? That you somehow orchestrated this? Please listen to me, she implored, her voice shaky. I had my reasons. You were so consumed by grief after your mother died. I thought you wouldn't care about material things like that ring. Care? Ethan shouted, his voice echoing through the kitchen. That ring was a symbol of my love for her. It represented everything I lost. How could you not understand that? Tears pooled in Vanessa's eyes, but Ethan was too far gone, the anger fueling his resolve. You manipulated the situation to keep my brother from claiming any inheritance. You used my grief against me. How could I ever trust you again after this? I was trying to protect you. Vanessa shouted back, her composure breaking. I thought it would be better for us, for our future. But at what cost? Ethan shot back, his voice rising. You made a decision for me without my consent. You hid the truth. I can't live like this, Vanessa. I can't be with someone who lies to me about something so important. The silence that followed was deafening. The reality of their fractured relationship hung in the air like a heavy fog. Ethan's heart raced as he realized the full weight of what he was saying. He was no longer willing to ignore the cracks that had formed between them. I need space, he said finally, the words feeling both liberating and suffocating. I don't know what this means for us, but I can't pretend everything is okay anymore. Vanessa stood frozen, the tears streaming down her face reflecting the pain of their unraveling connection. Ethan turned away, the ache in his heart mingling with a newfound sense of clarity. He could no longer allow his past or his marriage to dictate his future. As he walked away, he knew this was only the beginning of a journey to reclaim himself, a journey that would lead him to confront not only the ghosts of his past but the unexpected bond forming with Laura. The days following Ethan's confrontation with Vanessa were a blur of turmoil and uncertainty. He moved through the house like a ghost, the echo of their arguments lingering in the air. He spent sleepless nights replaying their conversation, wrestling with the truth of what he had learned and the weight of betrayal that hung heavily on his heart. Then, one evening, as he sat alone in the dim light of the living room, Vanessa approached him. Her presence was tentative, the usual confidence replaced with a vulnerability that struck a chord within him. "Ethan, can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded slowly, bracing himself for what was to come. As they sat across from each other, the distance felt monumental. "I've had some time to think," she began, her eyes searching his for understanding. "And I need to explain my side." "You deserve that much." Ethan felt a surge of irritation. "You're right, I do deserve that much. But what could possibly justify what you did?" "I never wanted to hurt you," Vanessa said, her voice trembling. "When your mother passed away, you were so lost in your grief. I saw how it affected you. And then, with the family situation becoming so complicated with your brother, I thought if I could just keep that ring away from him, it would help us maintain our stability. But it wasn't your decision to make." Ethan shot back, anger flaring again. "You didn't even consider how I might feel about it. That ring was more than just a piece of jewelry to me. It was a connection to my mother, to our past." "I know that now," Vanessa said, tears glistening in her eyes. "I was selfish, Ethan. I thought I was doing the right thing for us, for our future. But I see now how misguided that was. I was afraid of losing everything, the life we built together, the love we had. I thought if I could keep that ring from your brother, it would secure our life." "Secure it at what cost?" Ethan asked, his voice softer now. He felt the anger ebbing away, replaced by a deep sadness. "You manipulated me at a time when I needed support the most. You turned my grief into a strategy to protect your interests." Vanessa nodded, her shoulders trembling as she fought back sobs. "I didn't want to admit it to myself, but I was afraid of being vulnerable. I thought if I just handled everything it would keep us safe. But I see now that it only created more distance between us." "I'm so sorry, Ethan." The sincerity in her voice tugged at his heart, but it wasn't enough to erase the pain. "You've exploited my grief and my memories," he said, his voice low. "How can I trust you after this? How can we move forward?" "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she replied, her words pouring out in a rush. "But I want to try and make things right. I want to be honest with you from now on. I want to help you reconnect with your mother's legacy, not keep it from you." Ethan felt the weight of her words, the conflicting emotions swirling within him. On one hand, he longed for the connection they once had. On the other, the betrayal cut deep. He looked into Vanessa's eyes and saw not just his wife but a woman who had faltered, a woman who was still grappling with her own fears and failures. "I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I did," he finally admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "But I appreciate your honesty. It's a start." Vanessa's shoulders sagged with relief, yet the pain in Ethan's heart remained. He had lost something precious, faith in the very person he had once thought would be his partner in all things. The conversation had unveiled layers of complexity he hadn't anticipated, and as he left the room, he realized that the road to healing would require more than just a conversation. It would demand time, introspection, and perhaps a new beginning. In the days that followed Vanessa's confession, Ethan found himself at a crossroads. He moved through the motions of life, the days blending into one another as he grappled with the weight of his emotions. The house, once filled with warmth and laughter, now felt like a hollow shell echoing the remnants of their shattered relationship. He spent hours reflecting on their conversations, the love they had once shared, and the undeniable rift that had formed between them. Despite Vanessa's attempts to rekindle their connection, Ethan felt the distance grow. Each time she reached out trying to bridge the gap, he could only recall the hurt, the betrayal, and the deception that had permeated their life together. It was as if the foundation of trust that had held them up was now crumbling beneath his feet. One evening, he sat in his office, surrounded by reminders of the life he had built, photos of happier times with Vanessa, documents detailing their shared dreams and aspirations. Yet, he felt a profound emptiness, a yearning for authenticity that seemed out of reach. In the stillness, the weight of his decision pressed heavily on his chest. He picked up his phone and dialed Marcus's number. The private investigator had become a lifeline in the storm of his emotions, providing clarity when everything felt murky. "Marcus," Ethan said when he answered, "I need to talk." "Course. What's on your mind?" Marcus replied, his tone attentive. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about my life and my marriage," Ethan began, his voice trembling slightly. "After everything that happened with Vanessa, I can't shake the feeling that I need to separate myself from her, at least for a while." "Separation can be a healthy step if you feel it's what you need," Marcus advised gently. "It's important to give yourself space to reflect and heal." "I just don't know if I can forgive her," Ethan admitted, the vulnerability in his voice raw and real. "She betrayed my trust in such a profound way, and it's left me feeling lost. I don't even know who I am anymore without the weight of this relationship hanging over me." "Sometimes stepping away can help you find clarity," Marcus suggested. "It's okay to prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. If separating feels right, then it's worth considering." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of fear and relief wash over him. "I think I need to do it. I need to take a break to reassess everything. My life, my feelings, my relationship with Vanessa. I want to find myself again, free from the shadows of my past." "Take your time with this decision," Marcus said. "It's a big step, but it can also be the beginning of something new." After ending the call, Ethan felt a sense of resolve solidify within him. He knew that the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but the thought of stepping into the unknown began to feel less daunting. That evening, he sat down with Vanessa, the weight of their unspoken words heavy in the air. "Vanessa, I need to talk to you about our future," he said, his voice steady. Her eyes flickered with hope, but he saw the fear lurking beneath the surface. "What is it, Ethan?" "I think it's time for us to take a step back," he said, choosing his words carefully. "I need space to process everything that's happened between us. I believe that separating for a while might be the healthiest choice for both of us." Vanessa's face fell, a mix of shock and hurt washing over her. "You want to separate? Just like that?" "It's not just like that," he replied, his heart aching at the sight of her pain. "This is about me finding clarity. I need to figure out what I want, who I am without the weight of our issues dragging me down." Tears streamed down Vanessa's cheeks as she struggled to find her voice. "Ethan, I didn't want it to come to this. I thought we could work through it together." "I know," he said softly, "but right now I can't think straight. I need to honor my feelings and figure out how to heal." The silence that followed was deafening, each second stretching into an eternity as they faced the reality of their situation. Ethan felt the heaviness of his decision settle around them like a shroud. "Okay," Vanessa finally said, her voice breaking. "If that's what you feel you need, then I'll respect it. But it doesn't make this any easier." "I know," he replied, his own heart aching. I wish it could be different, but right now I have to prioritize my own healing. As he turned to leave the room, a sense of finality washed over him. He was stepping into a new chapter of his life, one filled with uncertainty but also with the promise of renewal. The path ahead might be fraught with challenges, but he felt a flicker of hope, a belief that he could reclaim his identity and ultimately find peace. Ethan spent the next few weeks navigating the emotional landscape of separation, each day an exercise in self-discovery and introspection. The quiet moments that once echoed with memories of his life with Vanessa now became fertile ground for reflection. He began to rediscover himself, peeling back layers of grief, anger, and confusion to reveal the core of who he was. Despite the tumultuous nature of his current situation, thoughts of Laura lingered in his mind, drawing him with an undeniable pull. Their shared history, intertwined with the ring and their mother's, felt like a beacon in the storm, a connection that promised understanding and empathy. He found himself reaching for his phone several times, contemplating calling her, but uncertainty always held him back. One evening, after a particularly trying day, Ethan decided to take the leap. He texted Laura, the words flowing easily from his fingers. Can we meet? I'd love to talk about everything. To his relief, her response came quickly. I'd like that. How about tomorrow at the cafe? The next day, as he approached the small cafe where they had agreed to meet, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the sounds of laughter and conversation. When he spotted Laura seated at a corner table, his heart skipped a beat. She looked radiant, her warm smile inviting and genuine. "Ethan," she exclaimed as he approached, her eyes lighting up. "I'm so glad to see you." "Thanks for meeting me," he replied, sliding into the seat across from her. The moment felt charged, filled with unspoken words and the weight of shared experiences. "How have you been?" Laura asked, her voice softening as she studied his face. "I'm figuring things out," Ethan admitted, his heart feeling lighter in her presence. "It's been a challenging few weeks, but I'm starting to understand what I need." "I'm really sorry about what happened with your wife," Laura said, her sincerity palpable. "You deserve to find happiness and peace." Ethan nodded, grateful for her empathy. "It's been tough. I realized I was trying to hold on to something that wasn't there anymore. I needed to let go, to create space for healing." Laura listened intently, her expression thoughtful. "It's a brave decision. Not everyone has the strength to confront those kinds of truths." "I appreciate that," Ethan said, feeling a warmth spread through him. "And I've also realized how much I value our connection. This whole journey has made me reflect on what truly matters: authentic relationships, honesty, and support." Their conversation flowed effortlessly, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt a sense of normalcy returning. He shared memories of his mother, the love they had, and how the ring had shaped his understanding of family. Laura listened with rapt attention, her eyes reflecting the depth of her understanding. "I never knew my grandmother had such a meaningful connection with your mother," she said softly. "It makes me feel closer to her in a way. And it makes the ring even more special." Ethan felt a stirring in his heart as he spoke. "It's amazing how our lives are intertwined, isn't it? I thought I lost everything when my mother passed, but finding you has given me a new perspective on that loss." Laura smiled, a glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. "Maybe we can both find healing together. Your past doesn't have to define your future, and perhaps we can honor our mothers by building something meaningful." The idea hung in the air between them, a delicate thread woven with possibility. As they talked, Ethan felt the barriers he had constructed around his heart begin to crumble. Laura had become a link to his past, yet also a doorway to a future he hadn't dared to imagine. "I'd like that," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "I'd like to explore this connection further." Their shared laughter and stories transformed the cafe into a sanctuary, a space where they could begin to heal together. The weight of his separation from Vanessa felt less daunting as he allowed himself to envision a future filled with potential, a future that honored his past while embracing the present. As Ethan looked into Laura's eyes, he realized he was no longer just searching for answers. He was also beginning to forge a new path, one filled with promise and the possibility of love. As the weeks rolled on, Ethan and Laura grew closer, their connection deepening with each conversation and shared moment. They explored the city together, visiting parks, galleries, and cafes that each held a piece of Ethan's past. With every new experience, he felt the shadows of his grief receding, replaced by the warmth of companionship and understanding. One sunny Saturday, Ethan took Laura to a serene lakeside park that had been one of his mother's favorite places. The tranquil waters shimmered under the sunlight, and he felt a rush of nostalgia wash over him. "My mom used to bring me here all the time," he shared, his voice tinged with emotion. "We'd have picnics and watch the ducks. It was one of her favorite ways to escape the chaos of life." Laura listened intently, her eyes soft with understanding. "What do you miss the most about her?" she asked gently. Ethan paused, searching for the right words. "Her laughter, her advice. Just her presence. She always knew how to make everything feel okay. I think I took that for granted when I had it." Laura smiled knowingly. "It's easy to overlook the little things when we're caught up in life. But it sounds like she left you with some beautiful memories." As they walked along the lakeshore, Ethan pointed out the spots where he had spent countless afternoons. "I used to come here to think, especially after she passed. It felt like a refuge, a place where I could sort through my feelings." "Let's make new memories here together," Laura suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. "This can be a place for both of us, where we can reflect on our pasts and envision our futures." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of warmth envelop him. They sat on a bench overlooking the lake, sharing stories about their childhoods, their families, and the moments that had shaped them into who they were. He felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders, as he opened up about his struggles and dreams. With Laura by his side, he felt empowered to confront his past. He shared tales of family traditions, particularly the ones involving his mother's love for storytelling and how it inspired him to pursue writing. He had once dreamed of becoming an author, and now, with Laura's encouragement, that dream began to resurface. "Maybe you should write about all of this," Laura suggested, her eyes bright with excitement. "Your experiences, your journey. It could help others who are going through similar situations. You have such a powerful story to tell." Ethan felt a thrill at her words. "You really think so?" he asked, his heart swelling with hope. "Absolutely," Laura affirmed, her smile encouraging. "Your voice deserves to be heard." As they continued to share their stories, Ethan realized that he was no longer just reminiscing about the past. He was also laying the groundwork for a future filled with promise and possibility. With Laura's support, he felt inspired to embrace the healing process, not only for himself but also to honor his mother's legacy. Over the next few weeks, their bond flourished. They often returned to the lakeside park, where they would sit and talk for hours, sketching dreams and plans for their lives while surrounded by the beauty of nature. Ethan began to see Laura as not just a connection to his past, but a partner in crafting a new narrative, one that intertwined their lives in a tapestry of hope and healing. Ethan felt grateful for the opportunity to revisit cherished memories while building new ones with someone who understood his pain and shared his dreams. As spring blossomed into full bloom, so did their relationship, blooming into something vibrant and full of life, intertwined with the threads of their shared history. As summer approached, Ethan found himself transformed by the bond he was cultivating with Laura. Each moment spent together felt like a step toward healing, a gradual acceptance of the loss and grief that had once consumed him. Laura had become not just a companion but a partner in navigating the complexities of their intertwined pasts. One evening they returned to the lakeside park, the sun dipping low on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The beauty of the scene resonated with Ethan, and as they settled on their favorite bench, he felt an overwhelming urge to share his heart. "Laura," he began, his voice steady but laced with emotion, "I've been thinking a lot about my mom and how her passing changed everything for me. For so long I let grief control my life, and I didn't know how to let go. But being with you has changed that." She turned to him, her gaze encouraging. "I'm glad to hear you say that. It's a significant step to acknowledge your feelings and allow yourself to heal. I realize now that my mother's legacy isn't just in the ring or the memories of her. It's in the love she gave me and the values she instilled," he continued, a sense of clarity washing over him. "She taught me the importance of connections, of love and family. I want to honor that by living fully and embracing life again." Laura smiled, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "You're doing just that, Ethan. By sharing your story, by allowing yourself to be vulnerable, you're honoring her memory." Ethan took a deep breath, the weight of his grief lifting as he embraced the healing process. "I want to write about it, about my journey and everything I've learned. I want to share not just my pain but also the love and hope that comes from healing." "That's a beautiful idea," Laura replied, her voice filled with warmth. "Writing can be incredibly cathartic. It's a way to process everything and connect with others who may feel the same way." As they sat in the golden glow of the setting sun, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. With Laura's support, he began to envision how he could weave his mother's story into his own, using his experiences to guide others through their struggles. The more he spoke, the more excited he became about the possibilities that lay ahead. "I want to write not just about loss but about the importance of connection," he said passionately. "About how love endures even when we think it's gone. How relationships can change and evolve, but they're still meaningful." "I'd love to help you with that," Laura offered, her enthusiasm infectious. "We can brainstorm ideas together, create an outline, and even find some resources. You don't have to do this alone." Ethan looked at her, gratitude swelling in his chest. "Thank you, Laura. Your belief in me means more than you know. You've helped me find my voice again." Their conversation drifted into the night, filled with dreams and aspirations, laughter and plans. As the stars twinkled above them, Ethan realized he was no longer bound by his past. Instead, he was learning to embrace it, to weave it into a new narrative that would guide him forward. In that moment, he understood that healing wasn't about forgetting the pain but about accepting it, acknowledging its presence, and allowing it to shape him into a more resilient person. With Laura by his side, he felt ready to face the future, one that was not defined by grief but illuminated by hope and possibility. As the leaves turned from vibrant greens to fiery reds and golds, Ethan felt a sense of peace settling within him. Autumn had always been a season of reflection, and this year, it took on a deeper significance. He and Laura had built a relationship founded on openness and understanding, and the journey they had undertaken together had brought him to a place of emotional closure. One afternoon, Ethan made a decision. He wanted to visit his mother's grave, a place he had avoided since her passing, the pain too raw and unresolved. But he knew it was time to confront those feelings, to share with her all he had experienced in the past year and the love he had found with Laura. He drove to the cemetery, the car filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. As he parked and stepped out, the crisp air filled his lungs, invigorating and sharp. The trees around the cemetery were ablaze with autumn colors, and Ethan marveled at the beauty of nature juxtaposed with the somberness of the occasion. When he reached his mother's grave, he knelt down, the weight of his grief pressing down on him. The headstone was adorned with flowers that Laura had helped him pick out, a simple bouquet that reflected the colors of fall. He brushed his fingers over the engraved name, feeling a wave of emotions wash over him. "Mom," he began, his voice trembling. "I've missed you so much. I've carried the weight of your loss for so long, and it's been hard to let go. But I want you to know that I'm finally starting to heal." He paused, feeling the tears spill over as he continued. "I've been writing about you, about us, about everything I've learned since you left. It's been a journey filled with pain but also joy. I've found love again, and I wish you could meet her." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a sense of liberation as he spoke his heart. "Laura has brought light back into my life. She understands my grief, my struggles, and she encourages me to embrace my past while looking forward to the future. I want you to know that I'm moving forward, And I'm learning to cherish the memories we shared instead of just mourning what I lost." As he spoke, he felt a warmth envelop him, as if his mother were wrapping her arms around him in a comforting embrace. "Thank you for everything you taught me. I'll always carry you with me, but I promise to live fully. I hope you can find peace knowing that I'm finding my way." After spending a few moments in silence, Ethan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. It was as if he had finally laid the past to rest, allowing himself to grieve while also celebrating the life that continued around him. With one last look at the grave, he stood up, feeling renewed. He headed back to his car, eager to share this experience with Laura, to show her the progress he had made in his healing journey. After leaving the cemetery, Ethan felt a profound sense of lightness and clarity that he hadn't experienced in years. The act of sharing his thoughts and feelings with his mother had provided him with the emotional closure he desperately needed. He drove through the vibrant autumn landscape, the golden leaves swirling around him like confetti celebrating his newfound freedom. As he approached his home, he felt a rush of anticipation to see Laura. They had plans to cook dinner together that evening, a simple yet meaningful activity that had become a cherished routine for them. He imagined her laughter filling the kitchen, the warmth of her presence wrapping around him like a cozy blanket. When he entered the house, the enticing aroma of garlic and herbs wafted through the air, and Ethan couldn't help but smile. He found Laura in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, her hair pulled back in a casual bun. She turned to him, her face lighting up. "Hey, you're back. How did it go?" Ethan approached her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind and resting his chin on her shoulder. "It was good," he replied, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I talked to my mom. I finally felt like I could say goodbye." Laura turned in his embrace, her expression warm and supportive. "I'm proud of you, Ethan. That takes a lot of courage." He pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. "Thank you for being here for me through all of this. I don't think I would have found the strength to do it without you." Laura smiled, her eyes sparkling. "You're stronger than you realize. You've taken such significant steps in your healing journey." They spent the evening cooking together, their laughter filling the kitchen as they chopped, stirred, and tasted their creations. With each moment shared, Ethan felt a sense of normalcy returning to his life, a feeling that had eluded him for far too long. As they sat down to eat, Ethan took a moment to appreciate the simple joy of the scene before him, the flickering candlelight, the warmth of their home, and the comforting presence of Laura. "I've been thinking," he began, setting his fork down, "about the future and what I want to do with my life." Laura looked up, her interest piqued. "What do you mean?" "I want to share my story," he said, his voice filled with determination. "Not just the pain but also the love and healing that's come from it. I've started writing, but I want to take it further. Maybe even publish a book." "That's amazing!" Laura exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "You have so much to share, and your journey could help so many people who are struggling with loss. I want to honor my mother's legacy, and I want to inspire others to embrace their own healing journeys," Ethan continued, feeling invigorated by the idea. "With your help, I think I can do it." Laura's face lit up with encouragement. "Let's brainstorm. We can create an outline together and map out your ideas. You have a powerful story to tell, and I'd love to be part of this journey with you." As they dove into discussions about the book, Ethan felt a surge of energy and purpose. They crafted ideas, outlined chapters, and exchanged thoughts, their creative synergy igniting a fire within him. It felt like a new beginning, one that was not just about writing but about living life to the fullest, embracing the present while honoring the past. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of their shared dreams and aspirations, Ethan understood that he was stepping into a new life, one filled with possibilities, love, and the promise of healing. Together with Laura, he was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, confident that the bond they had built would guide them through the challenges and triumphs that awaited. As autumn faded into winter, Ethan and Laura continued to nurture their relationship and the ambitious project that had come to define their new life together. The book began to take shape, with Ethan pouring his heart into the pages, recounting his journey through grief and the healing power of love and connection. Laura was right by his side, providing feedback, encouragement, and fresh perspectives that enriched the narrative. One evening, as they sat in front of the fireplace, Ethan read aloud a passage he had just written, a reflection on his relationship with his mother and the significance of the ring. The flickering flames cast a warm glow around the room, and Laura listened intently, her eyes focused on him with admiration. "This is beautiful, Ethan," she said softly when he finished. "Your words are powerful. You have such a way of conveying your emotions and experiences. I think this will resonate with so many people." Ethan smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude for her presence in his life. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've helped me find my voice again, and I want to make sure it honors my mother's memory." As they reflected on their journey, Ethan realized how far he had come since that fateful day in the jewelry store. The encounter with Laura had been the catalyst for change, leading him to confront his past and embrace the present. The pain of loss still lingered, but it no longer defined him. Instead, it had become a part of his story, one that he was eager to share with the world. As the holiday season approached, Ethan and Laura decided to celebrate their progress with a small gathering of friends and family. It would be an opportunity to share their journey, and Ethan felt a sense of excitement mingled with nervousness. He wanted to introduce Laura to his close friends and show them how she had transformed his life. On the night of the gathering, the air was filled with laughter and the scent of delicious food. As they mingled, Ethan watched Laura engage with his friends effortlessly, her warmth and charm captivating everyone around her. It filled him with joy to see the way she connected with the people he cared about. Later in the evening, as the guests enjoyed dessert, Ethan stood up to speak. He felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration as he cleared his throat, capturing everyone's attention. "I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for being here tonight," he began, his voice steady. "This past year has been transformative for me. I've navigated through grief and loss, and I've found healing in unexpected ways." He paused, glancing at Laura, who smiled encouragingly. "Meeting Laura has been one of the greatest gifts in my life. She has helped me reconnect with my past while also showing me the beauty of living in the present." As he spoke, he felt a wave of emotion wash over him. "I've started writing a book about my journey, and I'm excited to share it with all of you. It's about love, loss, and the connections that sustain us through life's challenges. I want to honor my mother's memory, and I hope to inspire others to find their paths to healing." The room erupted in applause, and Ethan felt a swell of gratitude. In that moment, he realized he had stepped into a new chapter, one that was rich with possibilities. His journey had been difficult, but it had also led him to a place of hope, love, and renewal. As the evening continued, Ethan took a moment to reflect on how far he had come. He had faced his grief, confronted the complexities of his relationships, and emerged stronger and more resilient. The path had not been easy, but it had led him to Laura, who had become a source of joy and inspiration. In the quiet moments that followed, Ethan knew he was finally at peace. He had learned that love endures, that connections can be rebuilt, and that healing is a journey worth embracing. With Laura by his side, he was ready to write the next chapter of his life, a chapter filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a bright future.